I want to go to Phoenix because Portland is just a little bit more of a complicated situation. So we'll get there in a minute. But Phoenix, they send DeAndre Ayton to Monty Kamara, who's their second round pick. They send them to Portland, and they get Yusuf Nurkic, Nasir Little, Keon Johnson, and of course Grayson Allen from the Bucks. The big piece there, I mean, obviously they added some depth that they needed. They filled out their roster with minimum guys, so they get Nasir Little, who is a decent role player. We talked about Grayson Allen a little bit, who's borderline starter. I think. I mean, he may start a little bit for Phoenix just because they don't have a lot of guys. But the big piece for them, they get rid of DeAndre Ayton, who they had apparently gotten tired of, and they get Yusuf Nurkic, who I just think is not as good of a player as DeAndre Ayton right now. And I'm a little bit confused by this. Number one, I think, could you have gotten more for DeAndre Ayton? He's a 25-year-old, 20-10 center. And I mean, he has a great mid-range game. I mean, certainly there's issues once you get in the playoffs, but this is a guy you could, pair with some young guys.
So we've talked a lot this offseason about how moves that like in a vacuum look kind of are really paying the piper for past stuff. And in most of those cases, that's like, well, you painted yourself into a contractual corner by, giving Bradley Beal a no trade clause or whatever. In this case, it's the failure to manage that relationship means that, like, I think somehow DeAndre Ayton is getting mentioned as one of the worst contracts in the league. And to me, that's absurd. Like,
it's crazy.
He's got problems, but he's not the perfect player. But at the same time, they don't make the finals in 21 if he is not playing at a high level. And as you say, he's a guy who, with all the questions about his motor and whatever, still rolls out of bed, gets you 18 and 10 on high efficiency and can move his feet and has good ball skills. And like, what are we talking about here? Now they had to move him because the situation become untenable, and it wasn't just like Monty Williams, it was everybody else on that roster apparently.
Right.
And that, how do you let that situation get to that point is the question. From there, you say, okay, you turned him into 3 playable guys. I think Nas Little could be really intriguing as a playoff piece for them. So that's the one I'm looking at. But then, as you say, the downgrade from Ayton to Nurkic, just in terms of mobility, is substantial.
They don't really have much of a defense.
I think the Phoenix Suns took them out of contention by moving DeAndre Ayton for Nurkic. And it's not because I think Ayton's so good and all of that stuff. I just think Nurkic is done. And I might be way wrong. And we might be talking about this in January and February and all the way going like, damn, I was way wrong. Nurkic had another gear. He has not been the same since he broke his leg. And fair, by the way, he broke his freaking leg. Like, I get it. But like in that sense of he is not mobile enough defensively. He does do a good job grabbing rebounds, which is going to help this team a lot. But I think he's the target everybody's going to go after defensively. They're always going to try to pick on him and put him in pick and roll after pick and roll after pick and roll. And because he can't move well, it's going to put them in a tough spot in that regard. I think there's a lot of questions for me with just that alone was my issue there. Yeah, they needed to move DeAndre, and we've been screaming about it. I mean, I think I'm the number one DeAndre hater. In
definitely on this show. I mean, I like DeAndre Ayton.
No, I don't think you can win a championship with him as a center. Not after they made it to the finals. After that, he kind of reverted back to being just not what they needed. And I don't think he's a guy that's really going to be a winning player in the long run. But I also just think for Phoenix, their issue is now they've just downgraded so much more and created more issues for them defensively. I think that gets a lot harder for them. I didn't understand them coming in. As much as you can like Nas Little as a potential playoff guy, a guy who I don't think has played at all in the playoffs. Somebody could fact check me on that. Like he was coming on well and then got hurt and things like that. I still think he has a long way to go to be a contributor and this is my standard for them. Championship team. This isn't a playoff team. Sure. The standard that they're setting is championship. And that's what I'm judging this trade on for Phoenix. And I think that's the thing that they kind of just took themselves out. Yusuf Nurkic will not be able to guard Jokic. And I don't think Jokic is going to have a problem with Yusuf on the other end. And as much as he can do on the offensive end, playing at the high post or whatnot, ball's not going to be in his hands that much.
Well,
Let him try.
And by the way, Ayton and his mid-range game actually, I mean, at least pulled Jokic out when he was guarding him. I mean, it's just Nurkic and the Nurkic-Jokic conversation isn't even a conversation. But it's a downgrade in my opinion. Just again, mobility.
I don't think you have to couch it by saying opinion.
More? Right. But how did you not get more for DeAndre Ayton is my biggest question looking at Phoenix.
I think that's just more the market has kind of, I mean, one, it goes back to Seth, like, them doing a poor job with the relationship and now, and all these stories getting out.
Yeah.
Of just the players don't like him or whatnot. Cool. I want to trade for that.
Right.
Like, I get Portland trading for it because it makes sense for Portland.
Mm-hmm.
Young guy, maybe needs a change of scenery. We can just go from there and figure it out. And this is also a team that's tanking. They're going to be bad. So they don't care necessarily about wins. And even if his contract for the next 3 years might be, and I'm with you, Seth, but might be the worst contract in the NBA, it doesn't matter to them.
All their guys are on rookie deals.
Because they already have a bad contract with Jeremy Grant because they gave him 5 years, $160 million.
Okay.
I will bring that up as long as I can.